Welcome to a new video in my channel, and this is Loco update time because I've been doing welding for the past couple of, well, I want to say past couple of days, but no, I was doing a lot of welding today and I was doing preparation to do welding, like getting materials and then, cutting stuff up. And what you can see here is the Loco chassis, and it's basically the two side frames or the two side pieces which are just bolted onto the main frame. But you see on the left and the right, so here, the the cab finally welded together, and that was a difficult job. I just finished it, and this was the first time I was trying to butt weld sheets of steel, and I was also welding the window frames, and everything started warping, and it was a lot of bending to just get things aligned. Things didn't get aligned perfectly, so I think I have to use a lot of Bondo, but let me bring you a little bit closer so I can show you all the details. Okay, so from this point onwards is shaky cam time. So you can see that, the frames are just sitting on these sawhorses, and so these are just held on by these clamps, and oh yeah, that's it. So first, this is one piece, the top, and the bottom piece is another, and then I just managed to get these bent at a local shop here because my CNC fabricator was not able to put in these nice bends, and then I started welding the window frames in. So there's a window frame here and there's a window frame there. Maybe you can see on the other side better. So you can see the two frames here, and actually let me give you a little bit more light. You can see the two frames. So I started to spot weld them. As you can see, there is like two small tacks on each side, and then it started warping like crazy. Like this dimension between these two edges became like 1 centimeter shorter, so the whole thing was just bending in. So I had to bend it out in order to get it aligned with the lower piece, which didn't have any cutouts, so it wasn't warped. And the other thing is that the lower pieces had these profiles. So one profile on the bottom and one profile on the top, which again I just tacked it in with a small beads, because I was afraid that I'm going to put so much heat, so I just did these small spots, and so that kept its shape. And then for the upper part I just had to bend it in to be the same profile, so I could attempt to put some spots, and I sort of managed. And then you can see that so it worked here. Okay, we don't need the light anymore. Let me turn this off. So, sorry, cam time, So here we have a little bit of lip, and then it looks a lot better here. And then on the other side, this is also pretty good. So I still have to probably like Bondo this whole edge and then sand it together. But it's not that bad. I think it's a little bit worse here, but I just have to bend this in with this sheet. But other than that, hopefully it's going to be not noticeable. And these seams are looking pretty good as well. And I think on the other side, I hear you can see that there is a little bit of lip, so I might have to grind like a mill off here, so it perfectly aligns the lower piece and the upper piece. We'll see. So it's not a perfect match, but I think, considering that this is my first welding, I'm pretty happy. It's still going to look, I think after with a lot of Bondo and sanding, it's going to look decent. Well, at least I hope. There was a bit of issue here. I had to grind off some of the welds and then redo them again. It was mostly, it was really difficult to align everything, and then push the two parts, like this upper part and the lower part, to be flush, and then I managed to do it in most places, sorry. So I think here it is pretty good. On the other side, it's fairly decent, but there is a little bit of bump here, and then here is, it wasn't so successful. But again, this is what I have. And if you look at this, I think, sorry, I just need to get everything in the frame. I think this, for example, this side looks really, really decent. So I can just probably just hold it together with clamps and just spot weld them from the, not spot, but just weld them from the inside. So I'm quite happy how this side turned out. I think for some of the other sides I have to do some more work. But it's starting to look like an engine now. It's starting to look like a body. And now I've realized that how big it is. I don't know, maybe I should have done a cardboard model before. But hey ho, there's no turning back at this point. So yeah, and I made these very rudimentary buffers. So I cut these pieces, that's basically just the a round plate, and I put this round plate onto this bigger, I think this is 1-inch pipe, and I put a bolt against it, and I was bending this into shape on the vise. So it has almost like the, the normal train buffer profile. And of course it's not perfectly centered, and these were cut on a hand saw, so they are not perfectly 90-degree cuts, and I couldn't really get these bolts to cut perpendicularly, so everything is a little bit crooked, everything is a little bit off. So I'm not awfully happy how these buffers look like, but I think I'm just going to go ahead with these, especially this is awfully crooked. But anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead with these, hopefully by rotating it to a specific angle, it's going to look half decent. But anyway, these things are going to bolt on, so if I don't like it, well, I'm just going to throw it away, and then at some point I will make new ones. But yeah, that's it. So I'm definitely going to finish for today, and well, yeah, I'm going to, I don't know if I'm going to do something tomorrow. I have some angle irons here, and they are going to go in here, in here, so that's going to support the sides, so it can rest on the chassis or on the frame. And yeah, ooh, looks good. That's the top. And by the way, this green frame, that's going to be the Loco carrying wagon, so I can transport it in the garden. So that's been welded, and it received the first coat of paint. So once the weather gets a little bit better, I think I'm going to give it a second coat. So that's that. And if I pan over to this side, you can see a few more details. Yeah, so I have the pins here. It's a little bit of friction fit, I think. Maybe I just need to grind this a little bit down. Anyway, I have two pins and obviously two buffers, and one goes into one a little bit better, and vice versa. Yeah. So these are, oops. So these are the sanding blocks. Sorry, the sand. This is where the sand is, and I have these pieces for the lights, and these are going to come over here, and this is how the headlight is going to look like. And well, the lower headlights, or yeah, white and red. And I need to drill a hole here for the top headlight. For some reason, it was definitely on my 3D drawing, but it wasn't laser cut for whatever reason, so I have to manually drill that. But yeah, these are the 3D printed parts. And what else? Yeah, horns are here, and I think that it is. Maybe I have a little bit more to say because I have a lot of footage saved. I'm not sure if I'm going to use them. By the way, I want to show you my setup as well. So a table with some scrap that I weld on, and the Lidl Parkside welder, and CO. So that's the whole setup. Okay, so with this footage we are jumping back in time probably about about a month. So initially I had this big frame that you can see, this long 5mm steel which is bent up on the sides or bent down, and then I had these cross members that are welded in that are going to support the bogie, and welding that was well, that was really difficult. I mean, this was the first time I was welding something which had a really tight bend, really close to it. As you can see, I mean, I don't know how if you can make it from this sort of like far away shot, but those are like, I think like 2 centimeter wide. So they just bent down on both sides, and when I started welding on one side, again it started expanding, and it was jumping out of the slot that it was milled for it. So I had to grind off the welds, and because it was opening up like probably like 2 or 3 millimeters, I couldn't just bend it back and then put it back, the the tabs into the slot. So I just have to grind the slots on one side completely down. Because it wasn't fitting anymore. So that was that was the first time that I learned how these things move when they are introduced to heat. But now here I was welding the end pieces on, and that got a little bit delayed because this is where the CNC cutter made a mistake, because I ordered them, or well, I was planning them to be cut on 5mm plate, but for some reason they cut it out of 2mm, and I think actually they made a mistake because no, I think I made a mistake because I had all the 3D drawings, so the CAD drawings using 5mm, but then I had a separate Excel sheet where I had all the parts and then the number of pieces and everything, and that had the width as well, the width of the material. And that was something that I created manually, and I typed it 2 instead of 5. So it was good in one of the document, it wasn't good in the other document, but they looked at the document, it was wrong. So anyway, I had to remade those parts, and so they arrived, and I was just welding them in. So I was welding across the frame from the inside, and I flipped it over and I did it on the other side as well. And then of course where the weld did not exactly fill up the sort of the corners, then I just added Bondo and then sent it down a couple of weeks later. Here I'm welding the couplings, and well, I had to do this 1.5 times again because I mean, I didn't really have a good way of holding all the plate and then all the sort of these vertical plates with the holes in it, and then so some of them moved and they were not completely flush, and then they're a little bit crooked, so I have to grind off some of the welds on one of the couplings and then just redo them again, and they are still not perfect because I guess well, as I was welding it, one of the plates started warping. I mean, I didn't want to create a jig for welding the whole stuff, but it would have been difficult to hold it in place anyway. Yeah, well, I'm just learning how to do this. So while I did one of them basically twice, and the holes here are for a 8mm pin, and I made the holes 8.5mm, and I should have done 9 because you know, with the welding's not perfect and the parts moving a little bit, well, these holes are just not perfectly aligned. So one of the pin is, well, as you could see a couple of minutes earlier, it was going in really well, tight. So yeah, I should have used 9mm holes. And this is the part when I'm doing the big side pieces, and it wasn't really difficult, to be honest. I mean, the doors have a door frame, and there is a window in the middle that has a window frame, and then you have these 4 louvers on each side. And so the louvers have a frame which has this bent up piece where I can put the actual louvers in. So there are like 45-degree slots that I can just slot in the louvers, and I can just weld them in place. So it wasn't really difficult to do. I mean, the only difficulty here is that you have to align them. I mean, I'm welding them from the back side, but you have to look at the front side in order to make sure that they are aligned, because there are no alignment holes or anything like this. So I sort of had to help it. So I sort of had to like, hold it upside down, looking it from the outside, align the inserts, and then, flip everything over so I can weld it. And then make sure that when I flip it, it's not going to move. So I use some magnetic clamps. And yeah, but I was lucky. None of them moved. Everything is aligned. I didn't have to grind off any of the welds, and I didn't have to redo them. So yeah, everything turned out to be okay. But I was a little bit afraid that I'm going to do something, stupid here. I'm going to mess up. But yeah, fortunately, I did not. And then once these frames for the louvers were in, it was really easy just to, put in all these, the actual louvers, and then just put a little bit of tack weld on top of it. And this is all I have done. And none of them moved, fortunately. I think, well, actually there was one. Again, I had to grind off the weld and then I do it again. But I don't think that you can really tell which one was, which had the mishap. So again, that was hopefully, fortunately it was fairly straightforward. Of course, because I was putting all the welds on one side, it warped a little bit inwards. But anyway, it's going to get fixed on the main frame. And as I mentioned previously, I'm also going to weld this end bracket so it can sit on the main frame. So that should be able to straighten up the whole piece nice. So I don't think it's going to be noticeable. And initially I thought that the 2mm, so everything is 2mm here. And so I thought that maybe that's not going to be thick enough. Because, others told me that they use 3mm because, that's more material and they don't need additional support. But I realized that with all these frames, window frames and the louver frames and everything, and the door frames, actually it's not only 2mm, because in most spaces it's actually 4. So I thought that I need to do some additional braces or subframe, but it doesn't seem to be. So it looks, fairly sturdy as it is, even without the top welded on. So I think once I have the top on, it's going to be, a fairly rigid structure. So hopefully I don't have to put additional materials into it just to make it any more solid. And this is a clip from yesterday. This is where I was welding on the buffers. Yeah, I already mentioned previously that I started by, I already had the sort of like this buffer, the round pieces that are already been bent. So they have this nice dome shape, which, as I said, it's not really centered, it's not really uniform, and it has a sort of, from the inside, you can see where the bolt has been pushing against it. So I was trying to weld a bolt onto that perpendicularly, which I sort of managed in most cases, and in other cases I did not. And I was putting a 3/4 of an inch pipe, like a really short 3 cm section of it. And then on the base plate, there was a 1-inch pipe. So the two should go into each other. There is no, guide. So, obviously there's going to be a spring inside. So you would have this sort of spring engine, just like the real buffer. But there is no guide inside. It's, and the difference between a 1-inch and a 3/4 inch is, actually it's quite a lot. So it's not like an interference fit, but there's like, I think probably like a 1 or 2 millimeter on each side. So when you push it in, it's not going to just go in. It's going to be like, sort of like, it's going to have a very sloppy action. But okay, this is the first version. It will be bolted onto the main buffer beam. So if I don't like it, I can just take it off, scrap it, and then build something new. And finally, this was the piece where I was welding on the frames for the cab windows, and I was just running out of SD card space, so there is only a really short footage of this But yeah, I mean, it wasn't any difficult or any different than on the sides when I was welding on the window frames and the door frames. Yeah, as I said, it started warping in as I introduced heat into it. But yeah, luckily it's only a 2 mil still, so I can just bend it out using, well, basically just using my hand, and on the sides I just put it into the vise so I can just bend it more evenly. But I think it worked out fine. I mean, the end result looks, you know, decent, and now that's my first job. I'm quite happy with it. I hope you enjoyed this episode, but that will be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.